So I recently had to relocate back to the Seattle area. I have some in-person work that I'm doing, which is a real blessing. I mean, as much as I love the Rocky Mountains, I do miss the professional networking that I got to do. Now, when I first negotiated the house that I'm living in, I had one major concern. I mean, aside from the usual, is the environment safe? Is the home healthy? Aside from those concerns, I had one major concern because I had just gotten out of an apartment that was kind of suboptimal. I wouldn't say it was bad; it was suboptimal. I had a couple housemates who were completely silent. Like, I would get up, it was 7 a.m., I was sitting down at the coffee table, and my housemates would get up and they go to the coffee table and they would have nothing to talk about. To the point that I would say hello and they were completely silent. Two of them. I came to find out the reason for it. One of them had unusual working hours. He was working 12, 16 hours a day for several days and then having entire days off where he would not even be in the house. So the days that I would catch him, he had long days where he just didn't have anything to say. Now, the other roommate I had worked as a security guard for several shopping malls, and he later apologized to me that it was part of their training not to talk about personal life because a lot of criminals at the shopping mall will leverage that information to take advantage of the situation, which makes sense. When he explained to me, it made sense. So he made it a habit to almost never socialize because he didn't want to make a mistake at his work. Okay, so I when I first negotiated the apartment, that was the big cue I was looking for. The social backgrounds of the housemates I would be living with. In this case, I was living with my landlord and one other housemate. And after a couple of interviews with other apartments I found on Craigslist, I settled on this one. And then I noticed a different problem. See, one of the big troubles with living with your landlord is that sometimes people get nervous if they watch and watch and watch, right? Nothing happens in an instant, right? If you have to do something and somebody's watching you, they're going to get nervous. This landlord doesn't do that, which is good. I had a feeling he wouldn't do that. He has another problem, though. He likes to make life commentary, right? He commented about the kind of computer that I used. He commented as I was cooking. He commented about my choice of diet. He commented about my intermittent fasting. I can't think of an aspect of my life he didn't comment about. Now, between this and being completely silent, I think I'd rather choose this one because I need to learn to set boundaries. And after two years of social distancing, a little annoyances like that, if I can learn how to respond to them and thrive from that, right? As long as I can learn to respond to that, that's great. But it goes to show that nothing comes for free, right? You don't get to pick and choose what kind of social interaction you get to have, right? But having said that, I'd rather have this one. I mean, granted, there was a reason why the two roommates I had in Phoenix were the way they were, but I paid good money to have people ignore me living in that place, so it just didn't bode well with me. That's why I moved out. The other problem was not only did they ignore me, but I had a situation. I was, I talked about how if I'm getting ready to, as much as I love intermittent fasting right now, what really drives me crazy is I'm getting ready to eat and there's an obstacle in the way, right? All of a sudden there's a surprise event. The phone rings and the person on the other end is long-winded and it's hard to reach that person, so I can't just say I'll call you back, right? Especially last year was full of examples like that, right? We had the pandemic. There was a lot of it was hard to find work, and so when the phone finally rang, it was not like you could call them back half an hour later after you were done eating, right? If you missed that call, you might have missed an opportunity to find work, right? Last year was full of that, right? This year maybe not so much. But I would get ready to eat, and an obstacle like that would come in the way, and I would get anger problems, right? And when I was living in Phoenix, my silverware kept disappearing. One of my roommates suggested after I ate to hide my silverware in my room. That doesn't bode well with me. I don't like to have roommates where I have to play that game with. You know, it doesn't feel like a roommate anymore. It feels more like a jail at that point, right? You only hide stuff from your cellmate or maybe at a shelter situation, right? I experimented with the shelter system at one point just to see what it's like. That's the kind when you have to hide silverware. That's what it feels like. I didn't want to live in that kind of a situation, and so instead I went to Target to buy lots and lots of silverware so that it could disappear over time, just so I don't have to feel like I live in a jail or a shelter. I really despise those. I've been in both, and I really despise both of those situations. Right? That's why I usually prefer to live out of my car instead of the shelter. Right? But. I didn't struggle with anger problems when my silverware disappeared. Go watch my videos from back in September. I ended up going to Target and buying 20 forks just so my roommate could have the pleasure of stealing them all, because that made me feel better. And that's the kind of situation I wanted to avoid. Actually, I wrote a letter and I left it on the kitchen tables explaining how, go watch my videos from the past, explaining how eating disorders like that used to cause me trouble, and I would appreciate if you could put them back, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who struggles, something to that effect. And the funny thing was, the very next day, all the silverware reappeared. So it wasn't intentional, but it gave me a sense of the kind of characters I was dealing with in that apartment. And you couldn't keep toilet paper in the bathroom. You couldn't keep silverware, and one day I had gone to prepare some fish. I got it out of the refrigerator, and it was full of liquid, and it spilled on the floor. And oh, no big deal, I'll go clean it up. Somebody stole my kitchen towels, and I had to go out in the middle of preparing dinner to go buy some kitchen towels, you know. And by the time I came home, it was messier than it had to be. And then I'm thinking to myself, why don't I leave the kitchen towels here? You know, I don't mind buying them. And they steal the entire roll. I don't mind sharing the kitchen towels. I mean, if you need 3 sheets, go ahead. But they steal the entire roll. I went out, and then one day the dishes were piled high because nobody wants to do the dishes. And I went out to get some latex gloves so I can do the dishes. But by the time I get home, I'm so worked up from all this crap that I go to take a nap, and I get up. The entire box of gloves disappears. And then my roommate has the audacity to suggest, why don't you just put that in your room? This is a house. This is not a jail cell. Get that in your head, right? Anyway, so that was the kind of situation I wanted to avoid when I moved in here. Unfortunately, feeling like you're a family with your housemates comes with its cost, and the cost is people comment on your diet, your choice of relationship, your choice of how you your career, and even what kind of computer I use and all that, right? Thanks for watching.